Welcome back, I'm Alex and we're in the shop today. I'm gonna give you 5 reasons as a diesel mechanic why modern engines built today will not last as long as engines built 15, 20 years ago. At the heart of it, it is pretty simple. Manufacturers have seemingly veered away from dependability, reliability, and longevity in their engine designs, opting to go for high power, efficiency, as well as lowering emissions as sort of the #1 design feature of these new engines. So just keep that in mind as we go through our list today. And you might be asking, why the heck do I have an F-250 with the 7.3 Godzilla engine behind me? Well, stick around to the end and it'll all make sense. The first reason why modern engines just won't last as long is because manufacturers are using cheaper, lightweight materials like plastic in place of traditional metal components. And critically, plastic is cheap, but it's also lightweight. And when you can make an engine more lightweight, it means that the vehicle is going to be more fuel efficient and it is going to reduce emissions, which is a critical design feature of basically every modern engine built today. I got a Ford Maverick with me, and under the hood here we have a 2.5 liter hybrid engine, and just there's plastic everywhere. We got a plastic intake manifold, plastic valve cover. We got a plastic fuel line here going into your fuel rail. We got a plastic throttle body actuator. This is plastic. You got a plastic fan down there, plastic rad. It just doesn't end. It's all freaking plastic. Something like this right here, like that plastic line, it's sort of melted or heated or crimped onto this, whatever this is, I don't know. But this is probably gonna crack after 5, 6, 7 years, and you're gonna have to replace it. Just is what it is. Everything is made out of plastic and designed to a price. Oftentimes now, those components are no longer serviceable, seemingly just to get a vehicle out of the warranty period. I feel like if manufacturers could make an engine block out of plastic, they probably would at this point. One of the biggest problems with plastic components, in my opinion, especially where I live up here in Canada, is the heat cycling. As these plastics go from hot to cold thousands of times, they're more likely or prone to warp or to fail than a traditional metal component. A perfect example is these radiators. They all come with plastic end caps now, and from my experience, this is always where the rads leak. Well, just another day in the shop. Turns out the rad was also leaking. And like these newer plastic rads, when they do leak or when they do fail, they're not serviceable. It's junk, you need a new component. And a lot of these plastic components that we're seeing on newer engines are exactly that. The second reason why modern pickup truck engines, especially in the half-ton segment, will not last as long as what they used to is because a lot of those engines are very high-strung, turbocharged engines pushing a ton of power out of small displacement engines. 6-cylinder, even 4-cylinder engines like the Turbo Max are pushing traditional V8 power figures. I mean, the Turbo Max is pushing almost 50 more pound-feet of torque than the traditional V8 engine, except this Turbo Max is half the displacement and half as many cylinders. This means that each of those cylinders has to deal with more pressure, more temperature, and that's great for delivering a lot of power out of a small, lightweight, fuel-efficient package, but it puts a lot more stress on your piston, connecting rods, cylinder walls, head gaskets, all of which just have to deal with more stress, and that's unlikely to result in a longer lifespan. A high-strung, high-pressure turbocharged engine is going to create more heat, meaning that the engine has or is going to have more demand on its cooling system, but also it's probably just going to run hotter than a naturally aspirated V8 engine putting out the same sort of power. And heat is one of the biggest killers of engines, so if your engine is running hotter, you're probably going to be shortening the lifespan as well. These smaller displacement turbocharged engines are most likely going to be delivering the power that the customer is looking for while making it out of the warranty period, but it might not be able to handle the longer duty cycles without getting added wear to the engine. This thing is working hard. Well, it's a real world test for a reason, I guess. In my opinion, a
larger displacement V8 engine like the 7.3 Godzilla is going to outlast a smaller displacement turbocharged engine almost every day of the week. The third reason why I think modern pickup truck engines just won't last as long is because of the rather lightweight oils that we're seeing being used more and more frequently. 0W20 weight oil is now used on the twin turbocharged Tundra engine, both GM V8 engines, the 3-liter Duramax, Ram's new 3-liter Hurricane engine, the Nissan Frontier runs 0W20, as well as the new Toyota Tacoma, all are running 0W20 weight oil. And in my opinion, it's just not as protective as a more conventional weight oil. This old Ford right here runs 15W40. Yes, it's a 7.3 PowerStroke diesel, but we have to ask ourselves, why are manufacturers running lighter weight oils in these new engines? And it comes down to what I said at the beginning of the video. Lightweight oils reduce the internal friction of an engine, which increases fuel economy and reduces emission, which is by far one of the biggest design factors or elements of a modern engine. And that is why manufacturers are running 0W20 weight oil. It's not because it serves better protection for the engine. In fact, it's probably the opposite. Now, if you're someone who leases your trucks or you trade your truck in every 5 or 6 years, not too much to worry about. But if you're looking to own your truck 8, 10, 15 years, this is where things become a little bit more risky. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm not an oil expert myself, but there's a fantastic YouTube channel, The Motor Oil Geek, and I'll put his channel down below. If you want to learn more, he's the guy. To put it in a nutshell, your crankshaft, it rides on a bed or a film of oil spinning very quickly. And when you're using lighter weight oil like 0W20, it's more likely to potentially collapse that film of oil when the engine is under load, like towing or at high RPM usage, and therefore that's going to result in faster wear of your engine bearings. So this right here is an engine bearing, a used one nonetheless, but what happens is your crankshaft doesn't actually sit on this engine bearing. There's a very thin film of engine between this bearing and your crankshaft, and the last thing we want to happen is for that oil film to collapse in on itself, and that's where we start to get some wear on these bearings. And with thin weight oil, we just have very little room for air. Again, at high speeds or at high engine loads, we're more likely to see that film collapse and create wear on this engine bearing, where thicker weight oil is less likely to do that, potentially leading to greater engine protection. Luckily, we actually have a perfect real-world example that has happened very recently. The 6.2 liter V8 engine from GM, if you haven't heard, they have recalled hundreds of thousands of those engines because of improper crankshaft surface finishing or polishing, and the faulty crankshaft alongside that thin 0W20 weight oil was causing main bearing failures, which basically means complete engine failure. And what was GM's fix to that? It was to replace the 0W20 lightweight oil with 0W40 weight oil, and that thicker weight oil is going to give more protection and therefore, in their eyes, counteract the improper crankshaft surface finishing. So essentially meaning that thicker weight oil like 0W40 is going to give your engine more protection. Should everyone be running out to put 0W40 weight oil in their 2025 engines? No, probably not. Those engines just are not designed to run that thick of oil. But when you get an engine like the 7.3 PowerStroke that was designed to run thicker oil, it leads to far better protection and is going to be more forgiving to potential debris in the oil and engine wear as the years go by. Continuing on with oil, another reason why I think these engines just don't last as long is the crazy long oil change intervals. Looking at the 6.2 liter V8 from GM again, that oil change interval is around 7,500 miles, 12,000 kilometers, which is just way too long. And because that engine is a direct injection engine, like a vast majority of modern engines are, you're more likely to get fuel dilution in the oil. And when you wait that long with very thin weight oil, 0W20 like we mentioned, you are just asking for problems. The fourth reason why modern engines just won't last as long has to do with these things right here, your piston rings. As a diesel mechanic, diesel engines have always and still do use thick, high-tension oil rings. This is a piston of a Detroit diesel engine. So I was not necessarily aware, but I went down a rabbit hole with the new Tacoma engine and found out that basically Every single modern gasoline engine in a truck uses very lightweight, thin, low tension piston rings, and that comes with a number of potential problems. Why would manufacturers go away from reliable, high tension, thick piston rings? Well, it all goes back to what I said at the beginning of the video. These engines are designed for fuel economy and to reduce emissions primarily, and with low tension, thin piston rings, we can reduce the internal friction of the engine, which means we get greater fuel economy, therefore reduce emissions. It's really as simple as that when you look at all these engines. The first concern with low tension piston rings is, if you can see right here, this third ring right here, that's called your oil scraper piston ring. And what it does is it helps to scrape oil off the cylinder wall as the piston goes up and down. So we're not burning an excessive amount of oil in the combustion chamber. Every engine will burn some amount of oil. It's just what it is. However, when we have a low tension, very thin oil scraping ring, we are going to burn more oil in the combustion chamber. And I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that the modern engines are burning a lot more oil than what they used to. The next potential consequence is, as you can imagine, we're going to get more blow-by, which means we're going to have more pressure in our crankcase, which is going to send more oil vapors into our PCV, potentially burning more oil, as well as getting some gunk into our intake. The third potential problem is that when we have very thin piston rings, they're more likely to expand due to heat. And you can see right here, we have our piston ring gap here. And so as this piston ring expands in the cylinder, that gap is going to close. However, when we have a very thin piston, it can heat up so much that that gap actually, these two ends can touch, and the piston ring is actually going to expand out into the cylinder, and that can cause cylinder scraping, cylinder wear. Not good. So these thin, low tension piston rings, when the engine is working under heavy loads, and these rings get very hot very quickly, we are more likely to actually scrape or damage or wear our cylinder walls than a normal size or normal thickness piston ring. Lastly, with having thinner piston rings, they're just more likely to warp, break, or cause issues down the road. The fifth reason why these modern engines will not last as long as they used to is all the electronic complexities that now come on these engines. I mean, you have fueling systems that are running north of like 4,000 PSI. Every injection pulse is being monitored by a sensor. You have computers talking to 25 different modules. You have sensors that are even looking at the way your eyes are staring at the road, all of which I think is just not going to last very well in terms of the long term, especially again in the climate that I live up here in Canada. It's great for someone who, again, is looking to lease or trade in a truck every 5 to 6 years. But if you're looking to own a truck for 8, 10, 15 plus years, I feel like all this electronic stuff is at some point going to wreak havoc on these engines. One of my specialties was chasing electrical problems on the big diesel trucks. I actually enjoyed it quite a lot. But one thing I was noticing is that the newer trucks, the wiring on the newer trucks, the actual gauge of wiring was getting thinner and thinner. And I kid you not, I just looked at this and I guess it looks like a mouse has been in here, but here, I got some light in here for you guys. But yeah, it looks like a mouse has been in here and chewed on this. I don't know what this wire goes to. Obviously can't be that important. We were just driving, but look how thin this wire is. It's tiny. All these wires are just tiny. So you get one little rub and it breaks the insulation, exposes the copper wire. You're cooked, especially in this climate. Any salt gets in here, it is over. And you'll be chasing this wire in this harness for days. Where you come over to this truck right here, which is a 1995, so it's 30 years older, but look at the difference in the size of the wiring. I mean, it's like literally 2, 3, 4 times thicker. You know, and again, this is nothing wiring. That's your wiper motor. You got like just the wiring is just thicker. So if it does rub up on something, you have more chance of it not breaking the insulation, and you're just gonna be chasing less wiring problems. Now, why do I have this F-250 with the 7.3 Godzilla in the shop with me today? Well, it's because I think that this engine is the most dependable, capable, long-lasting engine that you can buy in 2025 in a pickup truck. And in a future video, I will tell you exactly why that is. So make sure to smash that subscribe button because you don't want to miss that. Anyways, those are the 5 reasons why I think modern engines just will not last as long as they used to. Let me know if you think I've missed something. I always like hearing what you guys have to say. If you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And like I mentioned, if you like stuff like this, don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to have you on board. Anyways, enough of me. We'll see you on the next freaking video.